Hello, my name is Jessica Marr, student number 33043751, and this is for EDN441, What kind of HAS teacher do I want to become? So what is HAS? HAS is defined by SCASA as the study of human behavior and interaction in social, cultural, environmental, and economic and political contexts. HAS consists of knowledge and understanding and humanities and social science skills. So knowledge and understanding actually covers one strand, which is civics and citizenship, economics, business, geography, and history. On the other hand, humanities and social sciences cover questioning and research, analyzing, evaluating, and communicating and reflecting. The aims of HAS are to develop in students a deep knowledge and sense of wonder, curiosity, and respect for places, people, cultures, events, ideas, and environments throughout the world. A lifelong sense of belonging to and engagement with civic life, with the capacity and willingness to be informed, responsible, ethical, and active participants in society at a local, national, and global scale. A knowledge and understanding and an appreciation of the past and the forces that shape society. The ability to think critically, solve problems, make informed decisions, and propose actions in relation to real-world events and issues. Enterprising behaviors and capabilities that enable them to be active participants and decision makers in matters affecting them, which can be transferred into life, work, and business opportunities. An understanding of and commitment to the concepts of sustainability to bring about equity and social justice, and the knowledge and understanding of the connections among the peoples of Asia, Australia, and the rest of the world. My personal experience with HAS in primary school was non-existent. We had SESE, but the only thing that I recall from SESE, which is social, environmental, scientific education in Ireland, was from 9/11, which is my final year of primary school. There was the 9/11 attacks, and we did a project on the Lady in the Dust. This is the only thing that I recall in relation to history, geography, or social sciences at all in primary school. In secondary school, however, it became highly involving. We did have CSPE, which was Civic, Social, and Political Education. This was quite involving. We got to go to the Dáil Éireann, which is the government offices in Dublin. We went to many different places. We got to be involved in social constructs and got to be involved in school politics. But for geography, it was less engaging. The teacher didn't really care for me very much because I wasn't a very engaged student, or she wasn't engaging me in an appropriate way. But I did well. But history was the most engaging. This teacher was someone that I looked up to, someone that clearly knew what she was doing, could tell you any day off the top of her head. You tell her a year and she would tell you what happened that year. So she was very onto what she was doing. She knew the curriculum very well, and she saw that I started to pick up a love of the suffragettes and women in Irish history, and got me onto Maud Gonne McBride and the whole revolution movement by the women. And it was just something that stuck with me still nearly 14 years later. So that really was something that was special to me. So the kind of HAS teacher I want to become is an empowering educator. The idea of an empowering educator comes from Ira Shaw's Empowering Education, Critical Thinking for Social Change. This book has many spectacular ideas that I would love to put into my classroom, but so many that I have chosen these few. Participatory, problem posing, situated knowledge, and multiculturalism. I want to be the kind of HAS teacher that uses participatory learning. So, Ira Shaw said that people begin life as motivated learners, not as passive beings. Children naturally join the world around them. This is particularly poignant because it does show that children are active learners. They are engaging, they want to be involved, they're inquisitive, they're explorative, and they want to be involved in the world around them. When a class lacks meaningful participation, it can alienate students and then leads to a reduction in productivity in the classroom. So we want to have more active and authentic experiences going on in the classroom to actually engage our students. This encourages understanding and not just memorizing. Rote learning doesn't work, it doesn't stick. It can eventually, but it doesn't lead to actual understanding. They can know something, but that doesn't mean they understand it. And then it invites expressions from all students, so that all students participate in the classroom and have a voice, and then we can create together this democratic classroom. So I want to be the kind of HAS teacher that uses problem posing. Shaw also said, in this democratic pedagogy, the teacher is not filling empty minds with official and unofficial knowledge, but is posing knowledge in any form as a problem for mutual inquiry. So for mutual inquiry, that means the children are becoming inquirers and researchers. We want them to develop this from a young age, as this is something that is already embedded in the HAS curriculum. We can see this through the aims. Becoming a problem-posing teacher means that we need to pose questions about problems that we see coming up in classrooms or our daycares. These could be through the children, something that has happened in the classroom, something that we have come across in the curriculum, or something that the children have brought in as a question for us. So posing a question about these problems using I wonder statements or what can we find out about this, and getting them to be researchers into these problems and actually thinking about what's going on is more advantageous to them. It makes them become co-producers of knowledge. I want to be the kind of HAS teacher that uses situated knowledge. So situated knowledge means that we are mindful of who is in our classroom and that we acknowledge cultural perspectives. We become aware of the different cultural, historical, and geographical backgrounds that are in our classroom, and we integrate this with our classroom. I ask myself, what do I need to know about this community, and how can I connect to my class? How can I connect my class to the topic that I'll teach? So when we have a classroom that is probably Indigenous, we want to make sure that the topics that we are teaching can be connected to them so that they will engage and that it's something that they want to learn about, something that they can learn about, and something they probably already know about and can bring knowledge to the rest of the classroom about. So it's more engaging and more authentic. I want to be the kind of HAS teacher that uses multiculturalism. So multiculturalism links back in with our problem posing through stereotypes and through dealing with cultural inaccuracies, and then situated knowledge being our actual class and their cultural backgrounds. So multiculturalism can't really be defined in one term. It's very broad, but it can be broken down to different types of multiculturalisms. We've got conservative and liberal, which are very much the same in that they think that monoculturalism, that the cultures are the same, and that if you aren't Australian, you don't do something Australian, then you're un-Australian, which is not true. If you're Australian, you're Australian. Pluralist is who I believe I am. I celebrate diversities and the cultures, but I celebrate the differences in cultures. That's what most teachers will do. They'll celebrate diversities. So they'll have Harmony Day and Multicultural Day, but they'll celebrate it as a pluralist. I'd like to be a critical teacher, a critical multiculturalist. Critical multiculturalism has more respect for what is going on and what cultures have faced. It's more with human suffering, with the wars, what students, families, and what they themselves have faced, and combating stereotypes and prejudice that they may have also faced. So my favorite reading from this unit so far is linked to multiculturalism. It's Using Pictures to Combat Bias by Ellen Walport. So she has been a daycare teacher for 20 years and uses pictures in the daycare to combat biases. So if a boy says to a girl that, oh, boys don't do this, only girls do that, or girls don't do this, only boys do that, she'll bring in a picture that combats that. So if it'll be a picture of a dad with a baby, or a mom dressed up to go to work, so that they aren't seeing the stereotypes, that they're combating those stereotypes. She does it for different cultures. She'll have sets that she'll use for rummy, and she sets up rummy with 40 cards and 3 for each children, and they have to pair 3 cards that have common traits, and they have to explain the common traits and why they think that, and it creates a very good conversation. So for me, this idea was a fantastic idea. In conclusion, I want to be a HASS teacher that includes my students in learning. I want to use authentic learning experiences to encourage participatory learning and use questioning to pose problems. I want to teach my students to be creative, critical, curious, and mindful. I want to teach my students contextually and know who they are and what their background is. And finally, I want to ensure that I'm teaching multiculturalism to my students and combat the biases I may face in the classroom. Thank you.